Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another Mortgage Coach Mastermind every Friday, 9 o'clock. We're here to just have a conversation, mastermind with the Mortgage Coach community. A lot of the topics come from the conversations taking place in the Mortgage Coach Facebook group. And this week we had no shortage of topics. We had no shortage of things to discuss. Helping me as my co-host today, I have Rene Rodriguez. What's up, brother?
What's up, my man? How are you?
Good. So you are Todd Bookspan today. He's usually my co-host. You're the Todd Bookspan of today.
I'm the ugly version of Todd Bookspan. I've got it. I'm in.
Got it. So, dude, I just can't help but say how good you look on camera and love the branding. Everybody knows how to connect with Rene.
Thanks,
Dude,
brother.
you're just a complete wow, dude.
Working on it. I love your distinctions between good, great, and wow. So I'm trying to figure it all out. You know, it's a new world.
Well, guys, just one thing to take note. There's bad. Bad is not turning on your camera. So if you are a leader and you're talking to your internal team and you're not on camera, that's bad. If you're not using video and you're not connecting in every way you can with a client, that's bad. If you are like Scott Nicholson, you're in a room in your house, his lighting is not a wow, but you know, he's good. I can see his eyes. He's got the camera on. That's good. Craig Strett is also our guest today. What's up, Craig?
Hey, Dave. How are you?
Good. I'm going to bring you in about 15 minutes into the conversation and get you out at about 30 minutes. Are you good with that?
Sounds good.
You look good.
Thank
And
you.
then I don't know. I'll leave it to you guys to judge me whether I'm good, great. I know I'm not a wow like Rene Rodriguez, but I think I'm somewhere between good and great. What do you think, Rene?
I'm excited for you to get your new setup.
All right. So you're just going to leave it at that. Okay.
No, I think you dude, here's the difference, man. You execute. I spend all the time on these little details and it takes me like 10 years to pull off one of these. You're pulling off 85 while I pull off one. So that's the value. And that's one of the reasons you're as valuable as you are, my friend.
I appreciate it, dude. Well, I'm going to have you bring in color, ask questions. Our first topic and our first leader is going to be Scott Nicholson. Just to frame this for everybody, there was a post from a loan officer, John Tantum, and he said, "Morning, everybody in the community. I've been invited to take part in a Zoom first-time buyer class." So I don't know who invited him, but can anyone give me feedback on 3 to 5 great questions that I should get asked by the moderator? And guys, first of all, this is what makes the Mortgage Coach community so awesome. We had a lot of super quality people give great answers. Scott Nicholson, your answer on this was a wow. Like you crushed it with advice and value on what you do. So first of all, guys, you can read this. I'm not going to read this out loud, but Scott put some narrative ideas for him to consider. But Scott, why don't we just for like 5, no more than 10 minutes, why don't you tell everybody what you would do if you were doing a first-time home buyer event right now?
Right. I think a couple thoughts before we pivot in that. I think now is a great time to really do something. I think if you were to move over into some large real estate groups, you would realize that the LO perception right now, our bank's perception, is probably at an all-time low. Just our sheer volume of what we're doing on heavy refis, the neglect, our turn times, and some of us are better than others, but I think in general a whole. So I think that creates opportunity for us, right, to run these type of events, no matter what event it is. If it's a first-time home buyer, a move up, or whatever it may be. And so when I saw that, it hit a chord because one of the things I'm focusing on in particular is a move up. And I'm focusing on that in particular over first-time home buyer for a couple of reasons. I think first-time home buyer is going to be a challenge. And I think this gentleman here John was invited probably by his agent, right? They said, "Hey, I need to create some activity, I need to create some leads." And the first thing I would say is whatever strategy you do, and I'm going to recommend a move up, and here's why. Number one, we have inventory problems, right? So if you do a first-time home buyer, let's look at them side by side. If you do a first-time home buyer, those are all entry levels. How's our inventory there? It might be an hour, right? It's not even months probably. It's an hour. As soon as it hits the market, it's probably already sold, right? So I think the rate of return there is poor. And I think all the opportunity and the competitiveness, which lack of, is all up in your move up. So why I created that move up and why I responded in that way is what a great way to partner with your real estate agent to now say, hey, I do refis. I do those in the middle of the night, but in the day, I want to build my relationships with you and help build my purchase money, right? So what a great way to build back into that. Why most lenders are neglecting that, and their probably approval rate in industries keeps coming down. So that's number one. Number two, why move up versus first time home buyer? So partnering with an agent, going into their database and showing them, hey, we can sit down with your client that you sold a home to, they've appreciated. Now with COVID really has enhanced that desire to go. So you show up in the move up. So we went over all this last week. I don't want to go too much into it. So now what you're doing and what my goal is as a LO in a move up situation, I'm going to create my own ecosystem. I'm going to create that someone who bought at 300,000 now is maybe at 450. Imagine if they go, oh man, I love that, Scott. We want to move up. Now we're going to buy a house at 6 or 7. I'll put my house on the market. So I want to create all this inventory or an ecosystem internally with all my agents and say, shoot, and I'll pause for a second. I'll tell you what spurred this. Back 3 months ago, or actually just prior to COVID, I got brought into a transaction in Huntington Beach, and it was a house on the water. It was the creme de la creme of the neighborhood. It went to market. And what happened was real interesting. All of a sudden, neighbors 2 or 3 blocks back from the views, we ended up opening 4-legged transaction of all the neighbors wanting to move up one house to get into that. So it was really interesting. This one was just, I'm done. That was the top of the food chain. This guy wanted to move a block and so on and so forth. So it was funny. The agent handled all of the transactions but one. So she had a 7-legged transaction. You know, one was just a relative. The point was like, gosh, if I could show them, and I used the seller buy down to do it, especially just to make it affordable and deal with the lack of equity or increased equity position, especially reserves. So I go, man, why would I not do move up in this market and create this whole ecosystem to where neighbor B or D is going to C, C is going to B, and B is going to A. And so that's what I've launched. And now I responded directly in my comments. And this is what this person, I don't care what you're doing, this is what you want to leave with. I want people so engaged and get their information to sit down with me and go, I need to get pre-approved with you. So think about the questions I asked. Have you been pre-qual? That's an important question because you want to get a feel for what they're, have you started the process? Are you just beginning into it? So imagine most of them raise their hand. Okay, good. And so now I'm going to steer them down to, all right, those that have been pre-qual, who got pre-qual prior to February 1st, basically the collapse, of the market in income-wise, right? Well, that was me. Well, do you realize most of them who kept, then I said, how many still have their jobs but make less money? I guarantee a high percentage. So think of it. Most have been pre-qualified. I know this. Most have probably been pre-qualified prior to February 1st. I know. Most have taken a haircut on that income. And then the crux of my move up is, and then I get into my fourth question, how many have increased credit card debt along the way? Maybe have maintained income level, but brought in a liability load. Or how many have dipped into their down payment? So now I've totally opened their minds like, whoa. So now when I get into the move up presentation, I show them the impact of losing $275 a month on income impacts a pre-qual by $43,000 on a $500,000 pre-qual. So if they were at a big box bank on February 1st at $500,000 and they brought in, let's say they got a haircut of $275 a month, they just lost $43,000 income. Now I'm going to show them in the move up how we can regain that. And so now, and then what I do, I show John the text. So engaging now that consumer. Everyone on the Zoom call. Everyone pick up their phones. I'm going to give you the exact presentation we went over. They texted into it. I delivered the total cost analysis, the move up. So you guys can listen and go, well, shoot, I don't want to do move up, Scott. I want first time home buyer. Take move up out of the equation and just plug in move up or whatever you want to do, the topic, but you have to come from a different angle and really open up their minds. And my goal as a lender, I want to be able to take these clients basically away. Let's say it is Craig, right? And Craig's got 1,000 pre-quals he did prior to February 1st that maybe, well, I won't use Craig. The average LO, because Craig's not an average LO, an average LO, big box bank, going, yeah, your pre-qual will sit around and basically not redressing or reapproving based on either spent their money, some of their down, increased more debt, or lost some of their income that they've earned.
So Scott, we got 3 more minutes till we got to bring Craig in. Is there anything you want to show on your screen? Because there's a couple things I wanted to make sure people connected from that. I want to make sure everybody is texting. You can, here's Scott's number. It's 714-477-7425. And if you text move up to that, I thought that was a big idea because that's a great way to capture a lead and put something powerful into people's mobile device, total cost analysis. And there's tons of move up stories. We're going to talk about a refi strategy in just a minute. And obviously there's a refi boom going on in the market. And then Scott, I wanted people to just get, last week you did a whole thing on this, but I want them to see the webpage that you created with a TCA in it. So I wanted them to make sure they, 1, did your mobile capture, and 2, just 2 minutes, show that bitchin' website that you showed the other day, and then we got to bring Craig into the call.
Yeah, and this is something, so again, going back to whatever you're doing, if you're doing Zoom move-ups or Zoom first-time home buyers, one of the angles I'm, and most of I've launched this company, Lender Launchpad, and one of the technologies that we rolled out was the integration of Mortgage Coach into the site, into the LO site. So for an example, I can go to my realtor and say, hey, I want to create a safe and distant marketing experience for the consumer, that we can go ahead and look at your property, that we can keep a safe distance. And not only that, as an LO, my sweet spot or my kill zone, I don't know who you are yet, but I'm going to I need to get you onto that TCA. So let me show you one. This is an agent that he's actually using this for his listing presentation. Again, what am I doing right here? I'm showing you ways to get back into the graces of those agents, in particular listing agents. That's where the inventory is.
And real quick, guys, I want you to look at this. This is a story. This is a local story of a house with smart links. And then the story includes mortgage advice. So think of it from that perspective.
And so what we've done is, I built this integration of Mortgage Coach. So what's cool is once the LO, and me in this case, once I build it for this particular property, one, it recognizes the address, recognizes the LO, it populates in there. So now what I'm doing, my goal is to, and in this one he didn't do a video. So now again, another opportunity for me, like, Brad, are you kidding me? And this is probably an opening for Rene of taking these large groups of realtors that are like very good agents that like, whoa, how do I do a video for my house? How do I do a video? Because in the software, all you do is you just paste either the Matterport video that you've done and or the YouTube link that you've done, and it'll show up in property right here. And I'll show you.
So Ed, you got a minute before we're going to ask a couple questions and then jump into
I think the
topic.
power here is not going too far sideways. And there's the video. I mean, look, this is a big agent. Rene, look at his home tour video. Pretty bad. I mean, look at the price point on these things. Wow. And so now we've created an experience to where now as an LO, my kill zone is I want a TCA. So now when a consumer either on their phone, their pad, or their computer, they're going to get me. And they're going to get detailed financing how to buy this property, and financing. That's a huge thing. You're not going to get that on Zillow or Redfin or anything like that. So what I'm creating, this guy needs to be quiet right here. So think about what I'm doing for my agents right now. I'm going after the inventory, where it's at, and I'm using their inventory to get into buyer spaces, to create opportunities for me. And one thing I've done, especially for this group we're speaking in, this is Mortgage Coach. Guys, what better way to get in front of consumers and presenting your intellectual capital on a TCA on a property website? And so that's the kill zone for me moving forward. So I'll leave it at that.
So Craig, any questions or comments for Scott?
I mean, I got to give huge props to Scott. I mean, it's really difficult right now to find the balance between all these refis coming at you and to make sure that you don't lose sight of the bigger goal, which is when things slow down, you want to make sure that you have those relationships. And, you know, all the loan officers that are not paying any attention, especially their quality realtors and their teams that they have now are certainly missing an opportunity. And it's a huge opportunity to go after new agents as well, because it's going to be so cliche to call these agents when the refi run is over and go, here come the loan officers again. And I think Scott, in his comment about, you know, you write refis at night and you go after the agents during the day, I think he's dead on. And, you know, we all talk about work-life balance, but I'm a big believer that right now is the time to be out of balance. We're going to have plenty of time for balance when this thing is over. It's sort of raining money right now and refis, and there's a huge purchase opportunity, and this is the time to go get it. So kudos to Scott for having the discipline to focus on those realtor relationships. I endorse everything he said, and he's got some great tools there that people should be using.
And guys, in the last quarter of the call, I'm going to go deeper on that and show a couple other move-up strategies. If anybody is on this mastermind and you've done a move-up strategy where you're like, hey, family, sell your home, put more money in the bank. And I'm going to walk you through a TCA where a family sold their home, put $100,000 in the bank, got their dream home and the lifestyle they wanted. And when you look at the TCA 15 years out, they're going to have $500,000 in equity. So they improve liquidity, they improve net worth, and they improved lifestyle because of rates, COVID, and the situation we're in. Rene, anything you want to ask or say before we bring on Craig?
I can echo Craig and what he said, and kudos to Scott. There's two things that pointed out that stood out for me. One is Scott's meeting the customer where they're at in their journey. You know, if you're looking at a home and I'm in that journey and I'm in that place, I'm going to have questions, and he's predicting those questions and providing that answer contextually at the right time. And I give the example all the time. If you go to buy a TV, you're mentally in the place to go buy a TV. You go to Best Buy and you're staring at a TV. And if nobody was there to answer questions and they say, you know, leave an email and we'll get back to you next week, I'm done. I that time may have passed, or I may move on to somebody else that answers that question. But if I'm in the contextual moment and he's answering those questions, it's brilliant to incorporate Mortgage Coach and it's the use of it, because technology is all about its application, and to be able to apply it there in that right moment, I thought was brilliant. And the other piece too, what Craig was saying, you're dead on. It's the maturity of the loan officer is going to be tested in terms of if they can understand that now is the time to be doubling down on agent relationships, because they're alone, they're being ignored. Anybody can focus on the refi business. I love how Scott says, I'll do those in the middle of the night, but during the day, this is about you. And being able to stay consistently focused, that shows the maturity of what the pros are doing right now. All the pros, and Dave, you know this, all the pros have not forgotten about their agents. The newbies are talking about how much money they're making and how busy they are in refinances. And we all know that will go away.
Right on. So Scott, you are welcome to stay on this call as long as you want. But we're going to move on to another topic. Want to remind folks that if you do have more questions on this topic, we've got a great post in the Mortgage Coach Facebook group right here. And you have a number of top producing loan officers and grand masters with Mortgage Coach that are engaged in this conversation. So feel free to do it. And it's an absolute must. Everybody needs to text 714-477-7425, move up, and see how Scott is delivering. So
can I ask Scott which service is he using for that?
Scott?
That right there is called Call Action. That one in particular, what's nice in the Lender Launchpad, we've actually coded and built our own call text into the platform. So we're actually pivoting over to our own proprietary.
Got it.
Cool. But Call Action is an option, guys.
Yep.
And for anybody out there, dude, if someone's going to send you a lead and all you have to do is quick respond, and you don't have automation set up and you want to capture data at a live event, whether you're doing a Zoom or Facebook Live, get the engagement. You know, worry about the automation later. All right, guys. So we're going to jump on Joe DeMarco. So Joe, first of all, great job at coming to the community, asking a great question. He had a client that wanted to do a refinance. They owe $150,000 on the home, and they have $100,000 that they wanted to pay down the loan. So their question was, hey, we want to refi, and we're thinking, should we pay down the loan by $100,000? And he was asking the community for advice and perspective on how they'd handle it. And Craig Strent, who's a grand master at Mortgage Coach, has done well over 1,000 TCAs. You responded, Craig, and I wanted you to just provide a little more color, like, you know, give your response. People can read it, but give your response and your advice and your leadership to Joe.
Yeah, I thought it was a great question that Joe put up there, and it was sort of a lot of the responses were replying around rate and fees. People were saying, hey, get their LE and do a side by side and all that kind of stuff and see the total cost, and that's all fine. And you could see if your option is better, but I think that the approach there is, you know, for me, when somebody says something like that, you know, I'll grid it out for them. And the first column's got to be, you know, what they asked for. I think you always got to lead with somebody, what they asked for. So if somebody says, I want to move from a 30-year to a 15, I think column one, you know, column one is current. Column two has to be what they're asking for. So always show the prospect first what they want to see. Then I think you maybe suggest another way to get there. And the scripting that I put in there was sort of something along the lines of, you know, Mr. Smith, I understand you want to pay your $100,000. You want to pay down your mortgage balance by $100,000. Can you sort of walk me through your thinking on that? And of course they do. And they say, well, I want to pay my mortgage off quicker, and I've got this money sitting on the side, and I want to own my home sooner, and it's going to save me hundreds of thousands in interest and all that. Great. I appreciate you sharing that with me. What if I could show you a way where I could actually get you to the same point quicker, but maybe give you more safety, meaning more cash outside of the home, more liquidity, and potentially a greater rate of return. So maybe you can get to actually the same point even faster with more money left over. Would you like to explore that option and see what it looks like? Now, you're not going to get anybody ever that says no to that. Of course they want to see it. They may not pursue it, but of course they're going to want to see it. And so my feeling is that that's where the real magic happens, where the real value is created, not by being, you know, a couple $100 lower on your fees or a little, you know, an eighth lower in rate, but basically blowing away the competition by getting them to that point 2.5 years earlier, and with extra cash left over to boot. So, and a better tax advantage potentially if they're itemizing, and some other things. So what Dave just pulled up there was my basic shot at that. This was done while sitting on the couch in the evening, East Coast time, late at night, just to get a quick answer to Joe.
How long did it take you to do this? Because it seemed like it took a couple minutes. You know, how long did it take you to create this?
Yeah, I mean, it took me a few minutes. That's all.
Okay, a few minutes. And guys, look at this. He's you know, gave them what they wanted, and then walk through this scenario. I'm going to put a link in comments on this, although Craig already gave the link to this. So when he answered in the comments, he gave a narrative, he gave his leadership message, and then he gave a link to this TCA. So it's already in the original post, but I'll repost it in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I just basically showed them column one, what they wanted to see, the 2.5 they were looking at. And then I showed them column two, a 30-year fixed at 3. I mean, rates are probably a little bit better than that at this point. And I basically said, here's the $100,000 right there that you talked about paying it down. What if you pay it to yourself and your investment advisor? And incidentally, if you don't have a good advisor, I can make a referral. So there's an opportunity. And I'm going to use a 6% rate of return. If you look at any 15 or 30-year period going back 100 years, that's a conservative number. And I could dial it down if you want. And let's look at what that does to you over the 15-year period of time. So Dave, go back to the reinvestment tab. And you can see here, obviously, what it does. If we dial that down, we see that the freedom point is at 10.42 years. So under, you know, Mr. Jones, you got two options here. Under your plan, we can pay it down $100,000, and you can pay the mortgage payment at 2.5 and be done in 15 years. And that's great. And if you want to do that, let's get it rolling. Alternative would be to keep that $100,000, set it aside from the home, and, you know, maybe you're not maxing out your 401k, if you haven't loaded up your 529, you know, the sooner you pay for college, the cheaper it is. So what if you put that money aside? Let's say you got a reasonable yield at 6%, and again, we can dial that number down if you prefer. Well, you're going to basically reach what we call a freedom point, the point at which your mortgage balance, your investment balance outside the home exceeds your mortgage balance at 10.42 years. And at that point, you're going to have an opportunity at your choice to pay the balance off in full. So if you want to pay your mortgage off sooner, I can beat the 15 years by far, and you can have money left over. In fact, you can continue to invest the money and you'll be much further ahead. And Dave, I would stop here and say Jacob sort of up-leveled that with his post in Mortgage Coach in the Facebook group, is that what I didn't do was I didn't keep the payment going after 10 and a half years, and Jacob threw that in there and made it even better. So that's a way to even up-level it further. So what we're trying to do here, folks, is, you know, the majority of homeowners they just don't understand this stuff. They don't understand that you can do better by putting the money elsewhere. And they just think, oh, mortgage interest is the devil, and the sooner I pay off the mortgage, the better it is. But we can show them a way to get to the same point better. And so for those of you that are doing a lot of refinances right now and, you know, getting commoditized and shopping, this guy's a couple bucks better than that guy, the way to do the right, Dave, is it okay if I just segue into the right refi proposal for a quick second here?
Yeah.
The way you should be doing a refinance proposal right now is column 1, what they have now, column 2, the new 30-year fix they're looking at likely. Column 3 is the pay down, so a term reduction on that amount that they're saving, drop it into the term reduction, show them how they can keep paying the same and pay it off sooner. Okay. Column 4, taking that payment reduction, making it 0, taking that number, dropping it into the reinvestment tab, and throwing a rate of return at it. I use 6, but you can use whatever you want, and showing them how they can hit that freedom point sooner. So column 1 and column 2 is where 90% of mortgage people stop. Here's the rate, here's the savings, here's your break even, your cash flow. You're probably saying the wrong break even, by the way. There's a cash flow break even and an interest rate break even. So there's 2 different things there. And then you're saying, okay, now that's where most people stop. Now, if we really want to make this refinance work for you, Mr. Jones, let's talk about what that money can turn into for you. Let's look at column 3 and let's look at column 4, and then you get into all those other things.
And one more nuance I want people to look at when doing refis is sometimes you want to take the long term instead of just compare the interest cost. You want to change it to net worth, and you'll notice, look at the net worth over 15 years. The advice that he gave him was worth over $100,000. And if we change this and we moved it to 20 years, like let's move this to 20 years. Now we're going to see the advice becomes $300,000. So not only did the client get a better freedom point, become debt-free faster, but their net worth increases over time. So I just want everybody to think, like, average loan officers say, hey, here's your rate, here's the monthly savings, here's the rate savings. Mortgage Coach loan officers go the extra mile and they show strategies. And it doesn't take more time. It actually saves time to do this. When you get good at it, you become a master. Anything else you want to say, Craig, before I have Rene Rodriguez ask you some questions?
I would say present it by video. What I'm finding is that, you know, everybody thinks they have to talk to everybody and that, you know, they're the difference. But when you get the information you need up front, so I have a, you know, reply right away, here's what I need. And then I do it by video and I offer them an opportunity to connect by phone. But they rarely take that opportunity. I think doing it by video and walking them through it slowly, rather than trying to get them on the phone and do a live edge, is actually better, because they can watch it many, many times until they understand it. They can watch it with their spouse at 2 in the morning, at 7 a.m., and then they can ask you the questions. So for me, in terms of efficiency right now, I think that the video piece is incredibly effective. I think it's actually a better way to convey it than just trying to spew it at them on the phone and having them follow it. And it gives them the opportunity to watch it over and over. So definitely use whatever video you're using, but use the video to explain the TCA and the strategies and let them sort of digest it on their own.
And guys, this is a man who's created 105 total cost analysis over the last 30 days. So he is eating his dog food. He is doing what he says he can do. And that's one of the ways that he's leveraging his time right now, is he can create proposals any hour of the day, forward them to the clients at the time that matters most for them, and he's killing it. Rene, any comments or questions for Craig?
I love it. I love when you see a master understanding the numbers and the bigger picture with great questions. I mean, I think I hope people were listening that he didn't just jump into the TCA. He asked a series of questions that led the client to want to do that. That's the science. That's the art of being a sales professional. And it wasn't about, well, let me jump onto this technology and send you this video and assuming it's there. He had to create the intrigue. He had to create the need by asking questions that the client would say, of course, and anybody in their right mind would say yes to those questions, and everybody should be being asked those questions. That's the thing. It's not a a trick or technique. This is actually good for the world. It's good for the economy to get people to start thinking this way, and to have a technology that makes it that simple and that laid out. What I would caution listeners to is to not lose sight about how powerful this is. Just because it's easy for you to do doesn't mean that it isn't completely, what's the word, profound to somebody going through it for the first time. So you have to make sure you remember just how important it is and how scary it can be. So watch your language, making sure you're not using overly complex words that make sense to loan officers and real estate agents and financial planners, but to a consumer, they may not understand what that is. And so I think, Craig, the questions you asked were great. I was reminded of old Douglas Andrew stuff when he would ask the question of, because I still ask this question when people are asking me, and I don't do loans. I'm just trying to sell the concept. And I said, well, how much interest does that equity earn you? And just let them wrestle with that idea for a little bit, and let them run and wrestle. And I don't say anything, and just let them wrestle and wrestle and wrestle. And then they kind of come back to the reality that doesn't earn them anything. And I said, well, let me ask you another question. Do you even believe it's important to earn interest? And they said, of course. I said, so if you were to advise yourself, would you invest $100,000 into something that doesn't earn you interest? And I said, so that begins sort of the conversation. And said, they would easily transition and say, well, why don't we throw it on paper and you decide? And I'll just put the data out. It's this really cool tool. And you walk through and make it really simple, really easy, and very approachable. And the mastery, Craig, you have over all those numbers, I think, is what makes it good. And to your point, Dave, that doesn't happen overnight. And if you're listening to this, get as many in as you can. Do it to everybody you know. Practice, even to people that aren't looking. Can I just practice using this tool on you, and to see where you're at, just so you start developing that experience and the different insights to different scenarios.
Love it. So we've got 2 questions for Craig, and then we'll let you go, Craig. Rachel just asked, are you using the TCA for purchases or just refis?
Both.
Both. And Rachel, all the best loan officers in the mortgage coach community, it's purchase refi. Anytime you're giving people rates and fees, you're giving them options. And every time you're giving people rates and fees, you're showing those options over time. That's how you differentiate. And you're always looking for strategies. Like, those are the 3 things that are essential as a mortgage professional. And again, that's if you want to be a mortgage advisor. If you, hey, I want to be a loan officer, I do great transactions, I close loans on time, and I have great rates. That's your value prop. You don't need mortgage coach. But if your advice matters, and you want to be that local, my advice matters, then you have to do it for everyone. One last question, Craig. Michelle posted in comments earlier. Michelle Mason, thank you for being active in our community. I want to know best practices on incoming calls. It's so hard to take calls when you're in the middle of something and I can't finish it. So I don't know. I mean, that's not off topic, but
Okay.
she would love your perspective on that as a leader.
Michelle, I find that most inquiries come inbound by email rather than calls, but certainly on the calls, what I do these days, particularly on a refi, is I make the call back. I don't always answer the call, meaning if I'm in the middle of something, we learn that if you're in the middle of something and focus and you move off of it, it takes as much as 11 to 13 minutes to come back to that same spot in your head. So if I'm in the middle of something that's high concentration, I don't take the call. If I have a minute and I see it come in and I can take the call, I do, but I don't get bogged down with 30 minutes of Q&A anymore. And so particularly on a refi, I'll say, Mr. Jones, I'd love to help you with it. Let me have your email address. I'm going to send you a quick email, which tells you exactly what I need to build out a detailed spreadsheet of options that you can compare. I'm going to explain them, closing costs down to the dollar. I'm going to review the strategies and so on. So I have a signature, boom, right click, send it off. I'm done in 15 seconds. It's everything I need to know from Mr. Jones to do a proper refi analysis. If it's a purchase, another signature, boom, I mail it out, click the link, they click on it, they schedule a few minutes with my loan partner. She takes a 15 or 20 minute quick app, and then we have a TCA call scheduled where I go over it in person with them at a time that we agree on. So be very efficient with that. It'll take you way off your highway if you have to get calls where you have a 30 or 40 minute down a rabbit hole. Don't do it. Make sure you have a system in place. Signatures are the most efficient thing. Everybody in this call should have multiple signatures now. Refi response, purchase response, whatever it is, have that on there. And you can reply quickly and not get taken off your highway. You got to work proactively in this environment, and you're not going to get it all done. Dave, I want to come back to something Rene said really quick, because I think it's a huge concept that mortgage coach community needs to make sure that everybody understands. There is no ROI on principal payments. Okay. This is a concept I learned early in my career that really stuck with me. Okay. There is no ROI on principal payments. Stephen Marshall has an amazing slide on this that I saw years ago. Extra $100 to your mortgage, no return on investment. It's an illiquid investment. You have to pay a turkey like me to borrow your own money back if you want it back later, okay? And it's going to sit right there. That $100 does not appreciate. Home equity does not appreciate. The house appreciates and the equity goes up, but the home equity does not appreciate. And that's a really important concept to understand for all of you folks who are getting people saying, I want to see a 30 and a 15. And here's why. They don't really understand why, but they don't know that concept. And I think it's critical because Rene talked about unlocking that. Now, we don't want to do, you know, hardcore negam, you know, invest all the difference like we got in, you know, some of the Doug Andrews stuff, but the concepts are very important in that you understand that additional payments to principal have no return for the homeowner. Sure, they're going to say, well, it saves me interest over time. It does, but you can do even better than that. Check out this option.
So guys, what he just covered, we have a page on our website under lender services. You can go to mortgage strategies. And these are all strategies where you have expert loan officers. They're grandmasters at mortgage coach, meaning they've done over 1,000 total cost analysis, and they're top producers. They're doing huge volume. Craig, how much volume are you doing right now?
A lot. I closed 52 loans this month for, I don't know, I think about 15 million.
Yeah. So, I mean, guys, we're talking about one of not just the top 1% in the country. And in Craig's case, he's also a CEO and he runs a company. So as a producing CEO and leader of a company, he's doing insane volume. If you want to drill down in more detail, I've interviewed him a number of times, but we did an interview called The Perfect Financial Advisor Mortgage Experience. Not only is it an incredible 26 minutes of your time, he included a TCA that really illustrates this. I think as a mortgage advisor, you need to be able to have this conversation that Craig has, is where when he meets with CPAs and with financial advisors, he walks them through a 30-year versus a 15-year. And he really walks them through what he just talked about. Hey, what if you took the 30-year and you took that money and you put it into some type of an offset account? What would that look like over time? So anybody who wants to be, I'm a black belt in mortgage advice, you've got to use a TCA 300 times, but you need to know what Craig, you need to understand what Craig just said, and you need to be able to deliver that to both a family and a referral partner. Craig, anything else you want to add to that before we let you jump?
I know we talked a lot about realtors. You know that my niche is financial advisors. If you've had call reluctance on financial advisors in your career, now's the time to give that call reluctance up, because if you're a financial advisor right now and you don't have a good mortgage person, you actually look bad to your clients. Like a lot of people are calling their advisor saying, rates are so low, I want to save some money. What should I do? And the advisor's like, call your bank or call Quicken. Like, that's not a good piece of advice. So advisors actually need somebody to be able to refer to. So now's a good time. You don't actually need a crazy script. Your script is, I'm a great mortgage person and you probably have clients that need me. So here's my info, give it along. I mean, that's enough right now. It's not enough in a normal market, but it's enough right now. So that's another opportunity for you there.
So I know you both need to leave quickly. Rene, anything else you want to ask or anything else you want to say before you need to jump?
I'm going to echo Craig again. I think he's dead on. The financial advisors are ignored too much in this industry. I spent 3.5 years working with a joint venture of Wells Fargo and Edward Jones Financial and their Edward Jones Mortgage. And we put together so many different programs, and just the realization of how little they understand mortgage. And, you know, one could venture to say that them not having a good mortgage relationship would be breaching a fiduciary duty, because of how valuable it is to their clients to understand that piece of it. And if you can ask that question, if you can point out how it benefits them. And we even knew then that if a loan offer, or if a financial advisor, all they care about are assets under care, assets under management. And we knew that if they had a relationship with a loan officer that they had some influence over, that the average assets under care were 3 times that amount, 3 times. And so when you can communicate that message to a financial advisor who's going to ignore you at first, but you communicate that message to them, now all of a sudden they're starting to listen, and you have access to a database to really do some good.
Love it. So do you guys need to go, or could you do 3 more minutes? Just, if you need to go, you could go.
I can hang 3 more minutes, Dave.
For you, brother, I will. I'm just going to get less of a workout in.
So I'm going to give 30 seconds, and I want 1 minute from each of you on this concept. So this was a post that I did on July 20th. It was inspired by video that Bill Hart did that was like, hey, we're killing it as mortgage professionals. And we need to do less bragging about how many loans we close. And we need to do more bragging about the impact we're making for families. How much did we help people save on a refi? Brag about that. How much money did you help people save this month? How much wealth are people building because you did a purchase? So I am going to challenge the mortgage coach community. I want to know how many loans you closed internally within the industry, but I also want to know how much money you saved people. So Craig, you go first. What are your thoughts on that as an idea for both internal marketing and external marketing?
Yeah, I mean, I put out a leadership message to our team recently talking about that, and it's easy to lose sight of what the impact we're making right now. First of all, we should have tremendous gratitude for the fact that we're in one of the few industries in this country right now that is just overwhelmingly busy, and that it lends itself to working remotely so easily. So I think we're completely blessed on that. Two, there's a lot of, tough times going on out there. And I think sometimes we just think we're saving somebody $300 a month on their mortgage, but we're not doing that. We're helping them build a cash cushion. We're helping them take advantage of their employer-sponsored retirement plan and build up more money for retirement. We're helping them pay for college earlier. We're helping them get the disability or full life insurance policy they couldn't afford before. So I think there's a huge impact of what we're doing, and the stories is where the gold is. Showing people that are able to move out of a small condo in DC and into a bigger place in the suburbs, and taking a photo of that, making it happen, and showing the dog in the yard. So I think there's, and not just for marketing purposes, just for the purpose of making a huge impact with what we do. I also think, Dave, I'll digress a tiny bit here. I also think in terms of what we're seeing in the country in terms of economic justice, I think there's a huge opportunity for us to have a push into doing a better job in the area of minority home buying. The economic impact that people feel by buying their first home absolutely has a huge impact of lifting people out of poverty and putting them on a path to doing better and having a stable home life. So I think we have a huge opportunity as mortgage folks to make an impact in that area as well. And I hope that as we subside a little bit on these refis and have a little more bandwidth, that's something that our industry starts to move more into, because I do think that we can really be part of that conversation by making an impact in that area.
Wow, I love that. We could do a whole call on that, and maybe I'll try to get Kristen Messerly and do that. So Craig, you could hear Renee's response, but you can also leave whenever you need to. Rene, how do you respond to what I said and to what Craig said?
My response is easy. It's a move to customer-focused value delivery. And so if I'm a consumer, I don't care how many loans you've closed. It doesn't matter. If it feels good to post all that stuff, but you're losing sight of what the consumer needs to hear or your client needs to hear. But how many people you saved, if you can derive that around and pull out the impact you're making, that's where value is created. And so I look at issue. If you want a simple model, is look at issue, evidence, and impact. Here's the issue they were facing. Here's how we know it was an issue. And here's the impact financial that we had on them. If you can just run through that real simple model, it's the way you create a business case. And so now that little simple 3-step process, a realtor is listening to you. They go, wow, I need to create those 3 things for my clients. A financial advisor goes, man, yeah, we feel the same. We run into the same issue, and man, we know it's there. And I want to create that kind of impact because they can take your value proposition and use it as their own by referring you.
Love it, guys. So thank you very much to both of you for being on this call for 45 minutes. Thank you for all the value you bring into the mortgage coach community. Guys, we're going to keep going. So you got me for another 15 minutes, but we're going to say goodbye to these guys.
Thanks,
and if
Thanks,
you
brother.
like what they brought, give us a like down below. If you have a comment or a question, put it down below. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Keep doing the great work, Dave. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, mortgage coach community, we got another 15 minutes. I don't know if I'm going to go the whole 15 minutes. If you do have questions, I'm going to be able to poke into Zoom and look at questions there. I'm also going to be able to look in our Facebook group. I do have a few more things that I'd like to cover in our time together right now. And so I'm going to pull a few things up on my desktop. Just want to make sure you saw some of the things that are most important in the mortgage coach community over the past week here. So I just want to remind folks how we organize our YouTube channel. I've always, once you subscribe to the Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, you're going to see this, what mortgage professionals say about it. It's always going to be in the top. It's a great way to refer us to folks. I'm always interviewing top producers on how they're using Mortgage Coach to go from I'm a loan officer to I'm a mortgage advisor. So just know that using our platform, that's always there. Guys, we've had so many incredible interviews. So we've got our best of 2020 playlist. Every week, I'm interviewing someone amazing. I want to shine a light on this Monday's interview with Clay. It's pronounced Ebert. So I do plan to have Clay interviewed again. I also know that Todd Duncan's going to be talking to him, and he may be on stage with us at Sales Mastery coming up. I'm hopeful that he will, because this is I think, an important foundational interview. I'm going to put a link to it down below in comments. But he introduced one brand new concept that I hadn't even thought about. And then he connected it with a concept. He calls them case stories. We call them success stories. Sometimes we call them case studies, but I like his language, case stories. But the new idea he talked about was the 6-word introduction. And just for anybody that didn't see the call, the whole thesis is we do a horrible job of introducing ourselves to people. Like when someone says, "What do you do?" It's not strategic. It's not tight. It's not unique and different. It doesn't create value and curiosity. He made a good case that there's not a whole lot of people in sales, period, let alone loan officers, that when people say, "What do you do?" they introduce themselves with like a statement, a sentence, 6 to 8 words. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it because I really want you guys to watch this interview. And then more importantly, watching it, I want to see some of the 6 and 8 word introductions that you guys come up with as a community. My job as CEO of Mortgage Coach, leader of this community, is to make sure everybody that gives this community their attention, their time, and their engagement, you get value. And so I think if I could see some 6 to 8 word introductions, that would be amazing. And it would be super valuable to everybody in this call. And then I loved, if you listen to the whole call, how he goes, "Hey, once you say this 6 to 8 word introduction, now you tell some case studies." So you make a claim and then you tell a story. So I am going to be writing an article over the weekend on this, creating a playbook for it so that I can teach it, train it, and help our community build more of these introductions, build more of these. But my push to everyone that's either watching the recording of this or you're live, watch the lesson with myself and Todd Duncan. Todd did an incredible job. And then share. What's your 6 to 8 word introduction? If you could change that, or if you could share those, I would be grateful. So I'm going to take a look for questions. Hey, Michelle, I saw you pop in earlier. I don't know if let me see if I can bring in Michelle and see if anybody who wants me to unmute them and bring them in for these last few minutes, I can promote you to a panelist or unmute you. Let's see, I don't see Michelle still on here. She was on here, but we probably answered her question. If anyone has a question or wants to raise their hand, we're going to do that. And if not, I'm going to wrap up this call in the next few minutes. I'm just going to check Facebook Live real quick. Make sure we don't have any questions on Facebook Live. Robert, if you see any questions that I'm missing, let me know. All right, Facebook Live. I did put both the phone number, 717-477-7425, text move up. Someone asked for that question. I also put a link to the Brian Morley Move Up TCA, where the family was able to put $100,000 in the bank and have 500,000 plus in equity in 15 years and get their dream home. So I put that TCA in comments. No questions there. And let's see. All right. So I'm going to go into wrap-up mode, guys. I appreciate everybody who joined today's mastermind. This Tuesday at 9 o'clock, I'm going to be interviewing Amber Korvorik with Guild out of Tempe, Arizona, I think. She kills it. She was a rock star at this year's Scriptapalooza. So when we did Scriptapalooza, she got incredible reviews. If she wasn't the most highly reviewed Scriptapalooza guest, she was among the top 2. And I am just going to be talking about Amber, how are you making the most of 2020? Like, what are you doing different? How are you keeping up with the refis? How are you balancing purchase and refi market? She's incredibly successful. incredibly well-spoken. She's done well over 1,000 TCAs, so she is a grandmaster at Mortgage Coach. If you have questions for Amber, put them in comments below, and then we will be posting the promotion of that call in social media on Monday. So look forward to having you guys all on our Tuesday Mastermind. Hopefully you got value from today's call, and this will be in our YouTube channel at 2 o'clock. Take care, everybody. This is a wrap. Have a great Friday. Have a great weekend.